Hello and welcome to AP Statistics. Remember, while viewing these videos, you are encouraged to pause, rewind, and write down questions that you find as you go along so that we can discuss them later in class. I've been asked to sum up statistics in one simple statement, and by no means is this a complete definition of statistics, but I would say that statistics is the study of collecting, analyzing, and displaying data in order to make predictions about broader populations. There are two main studies of data in statistics. First, and the one you're probably most familiar with, is descriptive statistics. We're given a large amount of data and we're asked to describe it. You could be describing it graphically, or you could be making a description that is numerical in some way, making some calculations based on the large amount of data. The second and more interesting, and where we'll spend most of our time in AP Statistics, is the inferential side, where we are taking data that has been collected from a small group and then asked what predictions can be made about the larger population as a whole. An example of this would be during an election year when polls are taken from small groups of people to make predictions about the results of the election. Data contains information about some group of individuals. When we refer to individuals, we're often referring to people, but not necessarily always referring to people. We could be referring to things such as the lengths of bolts coming off of a machine, the amount of soda being filled in a container. A variable then is any characteristic of an individual. A variable, by its definition, can take on different values for different individuals. The following data table is linked to an activity that is most commonly referred to as an unusual incident. It's actually a historical tragedy. We want to spend some time, however, looking at the data and seeing what we can glean from it. Does it tell us anything? Tomorrow in class, you'll have the opportunity to get into groups, look at the data, spend some time with additional data, attempting to determine just specifically what this unusual event was. Let's discuss real quickly the types of data that we'll be seeing as we work through the class. There'll be two main categories. The first will be qualitative variables, which are sometimes referred to as categorical data. Categorical data places an individual into one of several groups or categories. Category is something that makes no sense to assign a numerical value to. For instance, your favorite color, your favorite food. These things we can't assign numbers to. The second category, which we'll spend more time on, will be quantitative or numerical data. Quantitative variables are ones in which a count or measurement for which arithmetic operations make sense, such as adding, averaging, those types of things. We'll be spending more time with the quantitative variables, as this is a math course. We'll need the numbers to work with. But we'd be looking at measurements, lengths, volumes. Here we see a breakdown of data, both quantitative and qualitative. Under quantitative data, we can also look at the data as whether it is discrete or continuous. Discrete I think of as packets. So imagine you're measuring, let's say, sugar. You're measuring out anywhere from 0 to 1 pound worth of sugar. If I buy a bag of sugar, I can make measurements on a continuous scale anywhere from 0 up to that 1 pound mark. But if I'm measuring the sugar in terms of the small packets you might get at a restaurant, these are discrete. Each packet contains a set amount of sugar. These would be a discrete measurement. Last thing I'd like to discuss in this video is the difference between univariate and bivariate data. Univariate data is data that contains one variable which describes a single characteristic of an individual from a population, whereas bivariate data, or two-variable data, describes two characteristics from each subject of the population. This most often leads to scatter plots, which we will be discussing in depth in the next few weeks. It should also be noted that multivariate data does exist, however we will not be dealing with this on the AP exam. It may be a topic that we save for spring after the exam. Okay, so this completes the first video in our series of Flipped Classroom AP Statistics. Please make sure that you're providing me with feedback as to the quality of the videos, the level of instruction, and how you're progressing with the material. More importantly, bring your questions to class tomorrow, and we will proceed to do some group work with the topics discussed here in the video. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.